Hi, Craig. How are you?
Yeah. There you go. Sorry, mate. Sorry, mate.
We'll just wait for a couple of minutes and get started. I can't see your face very clearly. You know, you have kind of.
That's probably a good thing. How's that?
Now I can see your shining ball.
Yeah, there's not another one like it in the country, mate. Although Feroz Khan did have a good one.
Yeah, you're a Feroz Khan doppelganger.
How are you, my friend?
Good, good, good. Lovely to see you as always. And I see you are at the cellar just now. Are you there? Are you...
Yeah, it's kind of, my backdrop is so much better than yours, no?
Great.
So how's things?
Good. Things are very, very good. I think, you know, the weather's getting better. You know, the pandemic's kind of going away. So things are getting better. And the best part is that life's good. You know, no complaints. No complaints. So you want to get started?
Sorry, mate, that's Bangalore traffic you're hearing.
Not a problem. Not a problem. That keeps us alive. So let's get started, Craig. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on ShaikhSphere. You know, this is a platform. This is a space where we talk about hospitality. We talk about things that we do out there, and it's a chance for me to chat with industry professionals on what they are passionate about, what makes them happier, and what makes them feel why hospitality is what it is. So to start off with, you know, Craig, talk to me about your journey. You know, how has it been in the hospitality world? How has your journey been? In an Australian in India, how do you land up here?
Well, I guess I got to go way back because when you know, when I was growing up, obviously you wanted to either be a lifesaver, a fireman, you know, a jackaroo, or in my case, it was wanting to be a chef because I always wanted to, you know, always loved cooking, I guess. Always loved, you know, that aspect of home life, you know, helping mum around the kitchen and kind of, you know, poking my finger where it shouldn't have been, always asking questions, all that sort of stuff. So it kind of, I guess, at an early age, it imbibed me an interest in what was on the plate. So I guess coming out of high school, it was just a natural progression to take on secondary studies. And, you know, in those days, you know, early days, it was the chefs, you know, the chefs back then were, you know, they were the old school, you know, German, Swiss, Austrians, French, nasty, grumpy, and me, a lowly little apprentice. You know, so they would throw things at you and all that sort of stuff, you know. So it was kind of, it was a pretty, discipline was hard learnt, I guess. But, you know, you look back and you look where I am now, and I just think, you know, you wouldn't trade that for anything, because I guess one fundamental, you know, at the core of hospitality is discipline. And that's, and I said, it's a very valuable lesson that I've learned. So, you know, from that, obviously, I continued my studies. Yeah, I did 3 years of an apprenticeship, but then, you know, I at an early age, I was wondering why all my friends were having so much good fun, and I was tied to the, you know, to the oven or the kitchen sink, and they were out partying and kind of yahooing around the countryside. And I then kind of thought, there's way more fun than this nonsense. So I went to the other side. I jumped across the, you know, across the pass, and then decided that, you know, being jumping in the bar and being on the service aspect of the business was much more me. Now, you know me, you've known me for a long, long time. You know that I'm out there, and I'm personable, and I'll talk to anybody, and you know, I'm not frightened of. So those traits, those character traits I have, helped me kind of straight away dive into that aspect of service And again, it's kind of something, you know, what I learned there has just been a guiding light all through my life. It's, as I said, discipline in self, discipline in kind of your professional kind of acumen. So all those things have been wonderful, you know, and yeah, I can still cook, and, you know, I can still clean, and I still punctual, and all of those things that I learnt at college and in my early days of professional life are still with me today. Now, obviously, being an Indian, I'm the only guy that turns up on time anyway. You know, so
that's unfair. Yeah, that's unfair. That's really unfair to say that.
Mate, there's no, come on, Indian Standard Time. Come on. So,
how do you land up here?
Well, some would say a momentary lapse of reason that's gone on for 15 years, but I got a phone call one day from a gentleman who I'd worked with and was friends with in Australia, a gentleman by the name of Jason Newell, who still works with Marriott Corporation. And he said to me, do you feel like an Indian adventure? Do you feel like an Indian adventure? And, you know, I thought it was like cowboys and Indians going to America, American-based company, Marriott hotels, because India was the place, you know, when he said India, you know, India was the unknown. It was always the place you flew over to get to everywhere else. And, you know, and in Australia, obviously, there's, you know, the great thing about Australia, there's a pub on every corner, there's a Chinese restaurant, and there's an Indian restaurant. So exposure to Indians was certainly part and parcel of the neighbourhood. But to jump in the middle of a country and work was quite an interesting opportunity. And as you know, when I arrived in 2006 at JW Marriott, Rock and Roll Central for Marriott Hotel, wow, I was like, it was like whether, you know, I was like a fish out of water, you know, a duck out of water, both. Because, you know, I just come from Korea, and Korea is a whole different kind of aspect of hospitality, service, food and beverage knowledge and experiences. Obviously I was in Beijing as well, which is another aspect of service and hospitality. And I arrived at the, you know, end of November in 2006 at the JW Marriott in Mumbai, and it was like, wow, where the hell am I? And how exciting is this? It was quite extraordinary. And I think when you're a traveler anyway, you have to have an open mind to everything. You can't close your mind to anything. Countries, you know, religion, every aspect of normal life. And when I came to Mumbai Airport, and in those days, it's not the beautiful airport it is now. It was an old buffalo shed and it was really kind of...
I wish I could punch you on that.
No, but I'm just, what I'm trying to do is let people know how far we've come in Mumbai. It's quite extraordinary. And I guess, you know, so when I arrived, it was like, wow, I was chomping at the bit to jump into it. And as you know, working with you, for those 3 years or whatever it was at the Marriott, I mean, it was a new lease on life. It was a new, a whole new bucket of opportunity and potential. And it was quite extraordinary. And again, and this is what I say to everybody that I talk to about this subject, the Marriott was at the center of hospitality in not only in Mumbai, but I think in total India. You know, I see people that, as you know, with food service in kind of Lotus Cafe, or some of the managers we worked with and all that, and they're GMs now and the director of ops, and it's extraordinary to see. So me traveling around the country as I do now with the positions I hold, it is beautifully familiar that I meet these people that I used to train, or and basically saw their careers develop and flourish, and it's quite extraordinary. So India has been, for me, an absolute dream. And apart from all the times I've been in trouble, but it's been an absolute dream career-wise. And I think what COVID has taught me is I wouldn't be anywhere else. That's it.
you know, you've kind of been here with us now for 16 years. I know you've got your
Yep.
PAN card, Aadhaar card. You've got both of them, right?
I'm a stranger, friend. I don't have anything Australian.
So how's the journey? How's the journey of Indian wine been in the last 16
Ah,
years? Let me tell you a little bit about Greg. So Greg's a phenomenal person with wine, and he has not only learned wine but is extremely passionate about wine. And over the years has contributed immensely to the growth of wine in the country. You know, working with various wine houses, working with various companies, getting both and promoting both Indian wine and international wine in India, making people aware of them, doing wine tasting sessions, wine appreciation sessions to kind of, you know, add value back into wine. And he's somebody who's been very, very fun through the time, and ensured that he's made wine fun. And when we got about you know, starting the Lexicon IHM, we said, you know, who better to teach wine to our students than Craig? And that's how Craig kind of came on board into the whole picture. And he was kind enough to become the wine mentor, the wine guide, and is going to be teaching our students completely about wine and wine certification.
sorry, my friend.
We've got Craig back. Now I just kind of took the moment to put the spotlight back on me versus you. I was just sharing with them how we got back, how, you know, when we started Lexicon IHM and wine being as important as it is, it was very important to me that, you know, the person teaching wine is a complete professional, extremely passionate about wine, and it adds a lot of value to them. So that's how, you know, we reached out to you, and you were kind enough to kind of come on board to take wine forward. So we were talking, what's the journey of Indian wine been over the last 16 years that you've been here?
Well, you know, it's been quite an interesting. You know, it's come not full circle. I wouldn't say that, but it's really in the early days when I first arrived, 2006. Now, as I said, I came from Korea, which is very dynamic, very you know, global in its the influences upon her, and what's, you know, a lot of French education in terms of wine and all that sort of stuff. So obviously coming to India was a little different because wine was not regarded as anything in the early days. And there was some, to be fair, there was some nonsense being put in bottles that was being passed off to the consumer, which was kind of, you know, left a lot to be desired. But that's not an Indian thing, that's a global thing as well. It happens in every country. But I think the fundamental thing, and you still see it today, is that there was no belief from the Indian psyche that wine in India could be a viable thing. You know, I know that when, you know, for instance, trying to recommend a product, people would just, Indian wine is kachara, that's it, and it was just discarded. So for me, and I've been a proud flag flyer for Indian wines for all of these years, and I will continue to be, because I guess, and gets obviously to a conversation we're going to have shortly as well about teaching. I've got to give back. You know, I've got to. India has been kind to me. She has been a good friend for the last 15 years. So I've got to give back, and one of those ways of giving back is to help promote Indian wine. Now, obviously, as brand director of Fratelli Vineyards, I spent 5 years traveling the country, spruiking on every soapbox that I could that Indian wine was fabulously represented. It was viable in terms of regionality, and you had to, and the consumer had to give it a chance. So with that, you know, Modi ji would be proud, because I'm a flag flyer for Indian wines, and I think with Fratelli at my back, I think I did a pretty bloody good job getting it into people's glasses. And and changing their perspective. And I think since then, some wines have been awarded, international awards, which is always a good thing to have a third-party endorsement from overseas. But I think what we're seeing is better quality, from the vineyard operations. We're also seeing them be a lot more serious in terms of what they're putting on the table. And I think what we see, the culmination of the maturing of market and a culmination of the broad global view of the winemaking fraternity, we're seeing better quality wine at every turn of the corner. And it's a great thing. And I'm very proud to say that Indian wine is comparable to some of the best made in France and Australia and New Zealand. And so we and I'll continue to fly that and continue to kind of push those words forward because I believe in it. And the only way to kind of get the public to believe in it is to pour it into a glass and get it down their throat. That's really, excuse the crudity of that, but that's really what it's all about. In order to make them to believe, I can speak all day long and kind of bamboozle them with beautiful words and all that sort of stuff. But, they just disregard it as bakwas and then, go on their own journey. But my job is to say, forget that, get it in the glass and let me show you how good Indian wine is these days. So it's fabulous. I'm in Bangalore, to put it into context, I guess. I'm in Bangalore and I tried one of the local Sauvignon Blancs here, and I got to tell you, it blew me away as one of the best Sauvignon Blancs I've tried in the last couple of years, regardless of where it's from. It was so good. So that makes me proud as a half Indian, half Australian, kind of pushing that message that we're making some pretty good stuff. So it's been an interesting journey, and I think Indian wine is going to continue on a great curve of quality. And then I think when the broader Indian market embrace it like I have, they're going to see extraordinarily good quality for value for money and embrace it the way they should. Was that a long answer?
I'm a big flag bearer for Indian wine, right? And, I think we've done we've taken a lot of forward-looking steps over the year to serving quality wine from what we used to kind of make years back. What is it that we need to do to change the perception of Indian wine to the world?
Oh, it's awareness. It's quite interesting because I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this to you, and you're going to scratch your head because I'm not here to educate. I'm really here to make people aware. And there's a fundamental difference between the two. And I think awareness is it's not bridled. It's kind of, it's unfathomable. Awareness is just such an extraordinary thing. So my job is to make people aware as much as possible about what's happening, not only in viticulture in India, but also in Australia, of course, and New Zealand and Americas and the rest of the world. But it's also to bring it back and almost symbiosis with what's going on in India, and to let people know that we're doing there's modern viticulture, modern winemaking, modern techniques all happening in India. It's not some budgiewalla down the road kind of just squashing grapes with his feet and sticking it in bottles and selling it on the road like petrol in Goa. It is kind of it is world-class facilities, and that's the extraordinary thing. And again, the most important thing is to get it in the glass. That's where awareness is formed and the people have the eureka moments, because once they taste it, and you do stupid things like you put a blinker on, you don't show them what the label is. You just say, tell me what you think this product is and what do you think of it, and tell me what you like and your experiences. Once you take the prejudice away, then they're judging it for what the reality is and the work that's gone into the bottle and the quality of the juice, as we say. And I got to tell you, it's a rude awakening for a lot of people doing it that way. So and even the French wines, give India a go and see how it runs with everybody else. You can't stick it in a corner anymore. Indian wine is not its own wine list at the back of the wine list, which you used to do all those years ago in the Marriott, you know, even in the Marriott, Indian wine was always the back page. So it's like time to change how we deal with it, so then the public is more informed. That's what it's about.
Yeah, I think we did a great job. I think we did a great job with that, right? We stopped classifying wine by country to wine by grape. And that was the first step to that. And you know, I've seen so many awards that Indian wines have won over the years. So if there were a couple of Indian wines that you would say that we must taste, what would they be? Which ones would they be? And one wine that you would not touch with a pole, which one would that be?
Yeah, but you know I'm going to get in trouble with that. That's a sneaky question, my friend. No, I guess to answer that last question first, you know, we do make bad wine in India, but then so do the Aussies, so do the Americans, so do the French. So hopefully that ties that question up for you. But I got to tell you, the Sauvignon Blanc I tried in Bangalore is from Charisma, and it's $1,200 a bottle. And man, it blew my mind. It is so good for $1,200, and it's like, wow, you know, it's like I use words to describe it like I would a French wine or you know, something else, and I get excited, as you can see, I get excited over it. And so the Charisma Sauvignon Blanc is the best one I've tried in the last couple of years. Outstanding, outstanding. And the winemaker came, and I was talking to him about it, so it's just really good to get into a mind of a winemaker as well, and just see where they're going, and as I said to you, you're talking about the quality aspects, international standards, all that sort of stuff. They're not backyard jobs anymore. It's high quality, high level of vineyard operation. So that's pretty cool. And the second one, I guess, excuse me for being biased, but obviously being a brand director for Fratelli for 5 years, you know, the Sete, the Sete for me is still one of the benchmarks of the Indian wine industry. It is, you know, it's Sangiovese Cabernet, made by a beautiful man by Piero Massi, who only passed away just recently. And it kind of set a standard. It set a benchmark for people to reach to, and I guess it also set a, you know, it basically said to people, it is okay to kind of go outside the box and create things differently, you know, different grape varieties, and trial and error, whilst it may be painful sometimes, is what it's all about. If you don't try and you don't fall over and you don't get back up again, you never create these wonderful things, which these guys have done, you know, and that's why I'm saying I'm so happy that I'm here at this moment in time as opposed to 2006, because the Indian wine industry now is so exciting. There is so much possibility and just so much beautiful stuff being produced and sent to the market. Our job, my job, obviously with Mansions by Living Liquids now, I'm just going to plug that, is to create environments that are conducive to people coming and being made aware of what those products are. So this is what Mansions, what the blueprint is to, you know, for instance, I got 600 wines upstairs here in Bangalore, and I got 400 spirits. And they all look beautiful, and the fundamental question is, what's inside the bottle? So places like we have created enable me to say, sit on down and let me show you what's in the bottle, and let's have a conversation. If you don't want to have a conversation, that's okay. I'm here if you need me, but taste it and wow, be joyous. That's what it's about. So that's why these places are so important to the future of the industry, is that we need places to be able to sit and drink all of these products without being charged an arm and a leg. That's the other thing. Right. So it's all exciting times. So that's why I'm still here. And, you know, I hope I'm here for another 15 years, 20 years, 30 years.
And I'm glad that you are here, because, you know, the students are going to get to learn at Lexicon IHM immensely from the knowledge that you have garnered over the years and the expertise that you bring to the table. So what is it that you as Craig Wedge, the wine master, is going to kind of teach them that is going to be different from what they're learning right now?
Well, I guess the first thing, I'm going to come into a classroom and they're going to think I'm a raving lunatic, because you know, as I said, it's not education. I'm not one that, you know, I remember when I was at school and I was in my God, who would be a teacher, you know? For me, it's just really about breaking down those barriers, I guess, or getting outside the box and communicating outside the box and you know, trying to get out what's in my head in such a way that they get it. Now, I learned a lesson in Marriott when you know, you can talk to people and you can tell them everything. You know, malolactic fermentation, oak regimes, blah 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 blah, the scientific aspect of it all. And they'll sit there and they'll say, yeah, I understood, no problems. Yes, no problems. But then a day later, there's no retention of anything. So I've learned some valuable lessons along the way, how to communicate what's in my head and to get the message perpetuated out there into the market. So, you know, for me, it's about doing things as I do, is denuding the whole process and breaking it all down into a form of awareness that is, you know, wine is such a simple thing. We tend to complicate it with too much education. It's just like, we take the heart and soul out of it by complicating it. I guess my job is to remove all of that BS and present wine as it should be, as a beautiful thing that's, you know, the second oldest beverage on the planet. It's been around for thousands of years and it hasn't changed that much over all that time. The process is still the same. It's just the refinements over generations and hundreds and thousands of years. So my job is to push that message forward, that it's okay to not have an answer to the question. It's okay not to like it. It's okay not to be able to smell 100 things in the glass. It's okay. My job is just to say, here it is. This is the basics of it. Now, how are we going to use the language that's in the bottle to form a language that you can recommend to a customer? Because we're all salespeople, regardless of how many positions I've gotten, you know, sitting in an ivory tower and all that. My job is to assist the customer. With no customers, we have no beautiful places to live in. Without customers, you don't have a college. Without customers, we have nothing. So all roads must lead to that kind of, that core basis, that everything we do is based upon getting a result and making a customer happy. So whether that be a recommendation, whether that be a beautiful dish on a plate. So my job is to kind of, I guess, form a language that's understandable to everybody. How do we take, you know, because in wine we talk about, oh, it smells like this and this and this and this, and it has texture and structure, and customers don't want to know that. 90% of the customers I deal with don't want to know that. They want to know whether that wine they're going to drink is a good thing. So we have to change the language of communication so people get, you know, so all of the information contained in that bottle is simplified. But it doesn't mean I'm ripping the heart and guts out of the product. I mean, I still love it. I still breathe it and, you know, dream it every day. So it's about finding the right language to you know, extol the virtues of to your students, so that when they are asked the question, the communication they have is informed, informative, and understandable, and not intimidating. We make wine too intimidating in this country.
Correct.
So that's my job. My God.
And great, yes, and I'm super excited. Trust me, I'm super excited with what we're going to kind of bring to the table out there. You know, the other day we were having a conversation and you mentioned that we should be able to even get our students to go across to vineyards across the world to get training. And how do we, how is that going to add value to them?
You know, again, I guess it's a learning I've had over all the years. When you go to a vineyard and you experience all of the text and all of the PowerPoint presentations and all the screenshots and all that sort of, once you're in the dirt and you're smelling it and you're picking grapes and you're, oh, it's just, once you're in there, it's just, it's, you know, it beguiles you, because the simplicity of it all is just so ethereal, because it is so simple. And once you dive into that, you know, when I first went to a winery, it was like, well, it just, look at me. I'm like a 13-year-old kid in a candy shop, no? And that's, so this is why it's important. I can stand in front of a class all day long and waffle on and blah, 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 blah. But to add to that, when you take someone onto the coal face, then what you've been talking about, it all makes perfect sense. So that's what it's about. That's why it's an important key. And that's why, you know, because you're close to Pune, obviously vineyards are, you know, a 3-hour drive, close, away. So that would be a very, very important aspect of any, you know, awareness platform that I would create for you, that it is part of it, that field trips, and obviously there's a fabulous kind of, I'll call it a university, but it's about grape, you know, it's the Grape Authority in terms of how they're creating hybrids for the Indian climate. And so all that sort of stuff is fascinating. And you need to know that to get a better picture of what the end result can be, is, and you know, it tastes like. You know, everything starts in the vineyard. So, yeah, so that's what we're going to do. Wow.
On your Insta or your LinkedIn, I can't remember where it is, you've got this tagline: every empty bottle of wine has a story.
Has a story to tell, of course.
Yeah,
every wine
can you talk to us about that?
Huh?
Can you tell a little bit more about that? What do you mean by that?
Well, it's just, well, you know, the thing about it is this, you know, wine is, as I alluded to before, wine is one of the true great creations of, you know, a joint venture between Mother Nature and man. It's one of the great things, you know, in its beauty, its simplicity. So for me, wine is part of 3 things. Wine is, for me, you know, because I'm an atheist, I can still have a holy trinity, and it's food, wine, and company. Conviviality. They are the 3 most important things on the planet. When you take all of the nonsense going on in the world at the moment and you sit someone down and have a nice plate of food, a great bottle of wine, the conversations are just match the other 2. So for me, wherever I've been around the world, you know, it's always been about food and wine and that conviviality, regardless of the language barriers, regardless of religion, regardless of all of those sort of caste, creed, whatever. When you're sitting down and you have a bottle of wine and a plate of food, it's just an extraordinary opportunity to learn, but it's also an extraordinary kind of chance to live a little bit more, you know, and live a little bit better and learn a little bit more about yourself and everybody else. So for me, every bottle does have a story to tell, because I've drunk them in Peru. I've drunk them in Portugal. I've drunk them everywhere. And of the 80 countries I've traveled around the world, there's been wine. So it's quite an extraordinary thing.
So you know, to lighten the mood, tell me a fun story from one of those empty bottles.
Now that's good. Well, I'm still on bail, so I can't talk about things like that at the moment. There's a gag order on it. You know, it's just, I guess, you know, I guess to generalize, because I've had so many opportunities and I've been blessed. I've had so many beautiful opportunities in my life, and I'm still having them. Every day is a new opportunity for me. But I think the most important thing is it doesn't matter the price of the wine. All that matters is the quality, and the quality of the food, the quality of the product, and the quality of the conversation and the people you're sharing it with. And we're very quick to judge, and it's like, you know, that wine at $100 is so much better than that wine at $10, and that's not the case. I've drunk $2 wine, you know, kind of hiking around Portugal, which has been the most glorious thing I've ever tasted. Or, you know, a bottle of wine at the end of my trek through Peru was extraordinary. And so it's not about price. It's just about your own story, I think. It's not about mine. I think it's about people getting out there and making their own stories. And wine, I said, I'm just in a room here and I got 20, 40 wines on the list, and I got all this whiskey and all that sort of stuff. Now, no disrespect to my spirits brothers, and I know Shakti obviously probably listening to this, but whiskies and gins and vodkas, all those things are not convivial. They're singular. If you're a single malt whiskey drinker, you want to have it peacefully without any company or whatever. Wine is bring everybody. Wine is kind of all embracing, all encompassing of the environment. So for me, that's the most important story about wine, and that's the story that I tell everywhere I go. That of those three things. So yeah. So.
No, but thank you, Craig. And I am really looking forward to seeing you in Pune next week, and building what we are going to kind of take forward to really big milestones out there. And I'm grateful that you are part of Lexicon IHM.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that.
As a mentor, as a faculty, and as an advisory member on the academic council. So I'm really, really glad and delighted you are there. I'm sure
Thank you, my brother.
Gain immensely. So till then, I'll see you next week. And to the audience out there, watch out the space next Saturday at 1 p.m. again for another episode of ShaikhSphere at my Lexicon IHM.
See you, my brother. Bye. Bye.
Bye.